It's the Ty and Matt Show with Matt and Ty.
And we're back. Oh boy, we're doing it again.
We're just the do it again kids at this point. Like
The comeback kids.
Yeah, every 2 weeks, give or take a week, we come back with a vengeance.
Unsolicited, but needed. I think we're needed.
I think so.
I had a friend contact me, and he was upset we didn't release an episode on Memorial Day.
Well, I mean, I
what better way to remember the troops?
Yeah, exactly. That
Cracking open a good can of Ty and Matt.
Yeah, hey guys, Ty and Matt.
What would make this barbecue better? Some hot commentary on meaningless things in the zeitgeist.
That's right, some hot pod.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the only, I know there's a ton of people that listen to podcasts, obviously.
Just a few.
But in my circle of immediate, it would seem like it doesn't like my roommates don't listen to podcasts at all. And if it ever comes on in the car, it's almost like I'm torturing them.
Yeah, it's like anything else, thanks to the internet. You hear, you think everyone listens to podcasts because you listen to them.
Yeah.
And you frequent pages and Twitter accounts and stuff that are podcast adjacent. So you're like, oh, well, everyone does this. And then you find out, wait a minute, no, they don't. I mean, enough people do that Spotify will hand out $100 million contracts, but it's still kind of
it's very
in
niche.
A way, yeah, still.
It feels like what weed was in the 60s, where it was we're not going to talk about it in public too much. But we're having a dinner party, the husband breaks it out. He's like, hey, do you guys want to smoke some marijuana?
Yeah, you know what? That's not.
Do you guys want to listen to some Joe Rogan experience?
Yeah. For a long time, it was podcasting. What is it? Perfect example is radio. People used to scoff at the idea of podcasting. Yeah. That was embarrassing if you had to go that route. And now it is clobbering radio.
Well, radio stations now make... they record it for podcasts, don't they now? It's live, and then they also put it on a podcast feed.
Well, I can tell you this, Ty. I made a guest appearance on a radio show this past week.
Oh, boy. So you got some, inside baseball.
That's right. So I wrote a little article about the space mission that went off so far without a hitch. They're up at the International Space Station right now, SpaceX, their Dragon capsule.
Yeah.
So I wrote an article about that and how, it might bring back, the public interest in space exploration.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
I know it's real. Let me just say, I know. Of course it's real. Kubrick's dead. It's not like he filmed it. So all I'm just saying is there was a moment, because I watched it and it was very beautiful. I thought it was super incredible. But there's this part where they have a drone ship going out to the ocean. And I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about. If you watched it, they let go of this thing on the ship to get through science, I don't know, or the orbit or something. And this thing drops down. It's supposed to land on this drone ship.
Yeah.
But as it's coming down, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I guess we lost the feed. And then 20 seconds later, they're like, oh, it's back up, and it's right there. No smoke, nothing. It's just there.
That's true. I will say I did see...
a fucking drone ship. So it's no human saw it land, but it did.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I do know that when they tested that, I remember seeing it, they had the actual footage of it landing.
I hope.
Or so they said.
Put that in the episode files, because I don't know. I saw that and I was like, I hate that had to happen, because in my heart I totally believe it, but there's always going to be that part of my brain that's yeah, but really, that's where the feed cuts out.
Even I like that kind of thing. I grew up going to my family would go to a lot of different aerospace museums. We always were doing that. Thought it was cool. And even in the back of my head, I'm like, could they have faked it? Could they have faked it? I mean, they have, absolutely. You could fake it.
Well, I mean, it's a 2005 camcorder look to the ship. And then like the astronauts are like, "Oh, look at the screens," and I'm like, "What the? What are they hitting?" It looks like no buttons are being hit. It looks like they're just tapping a screen.
I wanted to see like they accidentally cut to their camera and they're just playing Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Words with friends.
That's right. So I wrote about that ahead of the launch and got asked to hop on. It's called The Blitz on ESPN 97.5 in Houston, Texas. They were very nice. It was a good time. Just called in and chatted for a couple minutes. But long story longer, they released that radio program in like chunks. Each hour is a podcast on its own. Yeah. So they do like for each show is 3 podcasts. So you can listen 1 hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3. So it is like designed to be, a podcast. There's a long way to get to that.
Yeah. No.
But you were right. Yeah.
I know. It's just I know, just like the SpaceX thing. Like I know people are listening to, like we have listeners. People listen to this one unbelievably. I don't know why. What are you doing? There's real things going on you should be doing. Please go talk to your family again.
Yeah. We're your family now.
Yeah, we're your family now. If you subscribe to our Patreon, the subscription fee is a blood oath. Mm-hmm. What happened to blood oaths? Those aren't really happening anymore.
I can tell you exactly what happened. AIDS happened to blood oaths.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You are right, because like there's not. I don't in the '80s. You never see a good blood oath.
No.
But like when you read about it all the time, like in the '50s and '60s with like weird cults.
I think, didn't they do that in was it The Outsiders? Pony
yeah,
Boy
they all cut. Yeah, they all cut their hands with like a switchblade.
Yeah, and that came out. Yeah, I think that came out in like the early '80s, but it's set in the '50s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's a greasers, leather jackets.
Yeah.
What a simple time to be alive, where it was like, I just hate you because your family has more money than me, and I'm just angry, but I can somehow afford a lot of pomade.
Yes, I always loved the whole notion of, hey, he's from the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
And that was enough to hate someone. It was like, geographically, this arbitrarily built railroad was, separated the town into 2 warring factions.
Hey, let's go kick out some fucking townies.
Oh, those North Side bastards.
Yeah, what a weird time. The 50s, it was what? The preps, the greasers, townies.
Yeah.
Whatever else.
What are in the aforementioned Outsiders, they called them Socs, I believe.
Socs?
Yeah. I had to read that in high school. I might be making that up. But
I thought they were so cool, and now it's like, we all look back at that and they're like, a greaser would be a fucking nerd today.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I could kick Fonzie's ass.
Yeah, dude, fuck
so
Fonzie.
Easily. No, well, not, I mean, Henry Winkler, nicest man in show.
Yeah, no,
he's
angel sent from God.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah.
But, seriously, Fonzie, not the toughest greaser.
Yeah. Pony Boy is kind of, like, they're all kind of like in, what was it called again? The Outside. Yeah, The Outsiders.
Yeah.
All of them are fucking losers.
Dude, I think you may be onto something, because I'm now thinking of John Travolta in Grease.
Yeah,
dude.
If you saw that guy today, you'd punch him in the face.
When you see him prancing around a car, like, I thought I was supposed to be threatened by greasers. I thought they were like
tough,
the precursors to like Hell's Angels.
Yeah,
and then
no, not a chance.
No, because the Hell's Angels now. Well, you respect them.
Yeah, well, you have to go undercover just to like figure that whole situation out. Greasers, I mean, I feel like if you just had the leather jacket, that shitty slicked back haircut, and like you kind of knew how to work on a car, you're just in. They're like, oh yeah, you're one of us.
Yeah, it basically, I don't even know if you had to know how to actually fix the car. You could just pop open the hood, take a drag from your cigarette, and then just go, it's the alternator. And then that was the end. Like, you just had to call out a part of the car, but make sure you call out the right thing, because don't like look under the hood and then go, oh no, though there's a flat tire. Well, because then they'll know you don't know about cars.
Yeah, and then they're like, you're not one of us. Get out of here.
No.
I think that still happens today. I remember like breaking down in Orlando one time, and
In tears?
well, I mean, recently, yeah, the traffic there's so fucking terrible. But no, literally breaking down because my like Jeep was. This is like I'm just driving and then just smoke gushes out from under the hood. And I'm like,
Oh,
well,
God.
that's bad. Got to pull over. I wish I was that cool and collected at the time. Instead, you're just like panicking where it's like my car is going to literally explode.
Yeah.
And I pull over and it's like just gushing antifreeze, just coolant going everywhere. And some guy just walks up and he goes like, I don't know, could be the oil. And I'm like, literally, what the fuck? It's like clear as day, coolant. And like, I just love it because he just came up with so much confidence. And then on top of that, I think he like tagged it with, oh, shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Something's wrong. Something is amiss.
Oh yeah, every
That
guy
vehicle.
that doesn't know what's wrong with a car always says it. I even say I can't even like pretend I don't do it. When someone like asks me like, yeah, so my car's starting to do this, and I'm always like, huh, yeah, something's definitely wrong.
Yeah, people. Gender roles is a dirty word these days, but one thing you do have to do as a man, if there is a problem with a car, you have to at least say a car word.
Yeah,
you just have to suggest something.
Do you think it could be the rear differential? And it's like
Probably not, because the problem is clearly in the front.
yeah,
But you
Definitely
mentioned
a
the car
flat
part, so
tire.
that's good. Exactly. Same goes for grill. If you're there and someone's grilling, you have to be like,
oh yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. Don't press on the burgers.
Yeah, you don't
squeeze
want
the
to. Yeah,
juices
you don't
out.
want. You don't want the juices to get out.
Now I know it's fun to make them go, tss, but that's not how you get a good burger.
That audio. Jesus Christ. Every guy is like the fucking audio technician whenever you're trying to figure out that problem. And they're like, no. Your problem is the tweaker. The tweak, it's not hit. It's too much sibilance in the tweaker. And you're like, you're just saying words right now.
Yeah.
I know you are.
Yeah, I always felt that way too. If there was any problem that could be solved with a winch, if you just say, I guess we get like a winch and like just throw that out.
Maybe a set of Allen keys. Huh.
Yeah, what kind of screwdriver are we looking at? Phillips? That's basically here's what we can teach you on the time out. We can't teach you to actually be a man, but we can teach you ways to make people think you are.
Yeah, we have this at Weather Channel. We have this like techno crane, and it's such a nightmare to put back. Like you need literal tools to bring it out, set it up, and then take it all apart and put it back. And the part that always throws me for a loop, and it's so embarrassing because like all the guys that work on like a crew in TV and film, they're all very like blue collar, muscly men, and then it's my just newborn tree looking ass pretending like I know what I'm doing. And the part that always throws me for the loop is the ratchet strap, and I'm too embarrassed to admit I don't know how they actually function. Like on a functional level, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's just always me kind of like pretending until while someone helps me, and I'm like always the guy that's like, oh, I'll just clip it to the bottom. Don't worry, I'll get it clipped to the bottom. You handle the ratchet part.
Yeah, I got this.
I don't know how long I can. Mind you, this is like a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, and someday they expect me to do it by myself, and I'm guaranteed going to fuck it up.
Oh, God.
And I will just play it off. They're going to be like, what happened to the techno crane? I'm going to be like, I don't know. I truly don't.
Well, if you learn that one skill, because that's the thing, I think you just got to have like a couple skills in your back pocket. That's a good one to have if you can do that. That way, if they're like, does anyone know how to work, like put away the techno crane, you can like raise your hand. When we were talking about cars, changing flat tires is another one of those things.
Yeah.
My dad taught me that when I was like 14. Just he's
so
like,
important.
seriously, it came in. I got a flat tire at Disney World one time. It came in handy.
These are Ty and Matt tips, okay? Here's
Yeah.
what you need to do. You got to learn how to change a flat tire, put away a techno crane,
Yeah.
and call bullshit on a shuttle launch. I see where the last one could be kind of like, well, where would that come in handy? But let's say you're in an elevator, right? And someone just comes in and you got to make small talk. Who's more interesting, the guy that's like, the weather, or the guy that's like, yeah, SpaceX, that was cool. But did you notice that the feed cut out right when the engine part came down to land on the drone ship?
I like the only thing I'll say about that is that that's the part they would fake.
Yeah, everything else. No. Let me be crystal clear. Everything else was real.
Yeah.
They are 100% at the International Space Station. But I think no science or physics could explain how that engine got down. And they knew, they were like, I don't know where it actually goes. We let it go. We have no idea. But people are going to wonder, we need to like sell this thing.
Stuff like that, because the way it lands, allegedly, is like straight back to, like almost like if you played the rocket launch in reverse. Like that's how it comes back and lands vertically. Like I can't figure that. I know it has to do with like rocket boosters firing at specific times, but I have no clue how exactly that works. And I kind of don't want to know. I like when it's sort of like
a mystery,
magic. Yeah. It's like, let the smart folks do it.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they think of, like I was just watching them docking to the International Space Station, and they were reading off like what supplies they had used on the way up. So the one astronaut was like listing, he's like, all right, we had a lunch, a dinner, bottles of water from this bag. I don't know if they were like trying to calculate the weight or what. I was just like, this is amazing.
No, this bag has my name on it. So
yeah.
These are my water bottles.
This brown paper bag with my name on it.
No, Doug, you can't have any of my water.
Yeah. Houston, Doug's trying to take my water bottle. Please tell him to knock it off. Guys, if we have to come up there, there's going to be problems.
I can't wait till we start getting like astronaut TikTok videos.
Oh.
This is Bob and Doug, like da, 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 na, 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 da, da, da. But it's like them in 0G, and they have like 1 million likes, and they already have like 600,000 followers.
They're all about that TikTok life. When they come back, they move into one of those weird houses with like a bunch of 20-year-olds that just make TikToks all day.
Yeah, Bob and Doug are to come back and live in a TikTok mansion.
The word TikTok mansion makes me
TikTok.
It just makes me hope an asteroid hits the Earth. Like the fact that that's a thing, that like if you say TikTok mansion, people go, oh yeah.
I hate that I make TikToks because it's like I don't know how to. There's just I know we've talked about it. I hate this episode already.
Officially, time at TikTok sode.
Yeah, TikTok sode. I just don't know how to like come out to my dad and tell him I'm making TikToks.
Dad, and you go, I make TikToks. I know, son. I've known for a long time.
Yeah, I used to experiment with TikToking back in my day.
College.
And it's
back then, TikToking meant making clocks.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's where you got naked with your guy friends and you made clocks. It's like, no, Dad, that's gay.
Yeah. At least, yeah, making it's not the nakedness.
Making clocks with your cocks.
Yeah, it's like, come on, making clocks is gay. Now, being naked with a bunch of dudes, that's whatever. But come on, making clocks.
Yeah, that was TikToking in the 80s.
That's another one I can't. How the hell did they make clocks back in like the 1700s?
Do you even think space wants us? Like, I feel like they're just like, please stay down there.
We're the International Space Station is barely in space. It's like 250 miles above the surface.
Yeah.
So, like, when you compare that to how far the moon is from Earth, it's not very far. And then when you consider how far the moon to Earth is compared to Earth to the next planet, like, if you just keep putting it in that perspective, it's like, really, we still are keeping to ourselves.
Yeah, we're never getting off this rock.
No. I hear it's the third rock from the sun.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. Do you think we get Bob and Doug on?
Mackenzie?
No. Well, who's Bob and Doug McKenzie?
Oh, it was from SCTV.
Oh. Please don't make niche references right now.
I'm sorry. No,
now I have to cut all of this out so I don't look like a fucking idiot.
Well,
to our fans.
I'm sorry. I think because they're on Instagram, by the way.
Are they? Are they on TikTok?
Not yet.
They have to. God,
they probably are.
I hate that I keep going back to it,
Yeah.
but I'm like, they would clean up. I want to talk to him. I'd be like, look, one of you have to do it because you would just clear house on TikTok.
Oh, they would just do every challenge. Like they'd be pointing at stuff, but they'd be upside down.
Yeah.
And floating. We could potentially slip into their DMs and be like, hey, we had Phil Collins on. And they'll be like,
we've had Phil Collins on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we, next thing you know, we're talking to someone in space.
Yeah, we're talking to Bob and Doug.
Like, here'd be if I go in my backyard and wave, can you see me? And they'll be like, no. Oh. Okay. That was the only question I had for Bob and Doug.
Hey, Bob, can you look out your window? I'm actually shining a flashlight at the sky.
Yeah.
Can you see that? It's like, no, like every question is just us trying to be seen.
Yeah, right.
I let go of a balloon and it's floating up there right now. Can you see that?
I have a mirror. I'm trying to reflect the sun. Can you see it?
And they're like, no, wait. Actually, no, we can. Oh,
I have a very tall top hat on. Can you see it?
Oh my God. I don't know. Time Matt goes to space. We got to do it. I want to do that episode.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to do it.
Well,
I know how.
Commercial space flight. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
If we've enough bread, if we got one of those $100 million Joe Rogan Spotify contracts, we are going.
I need you people to fucking care about this podcast because we have big dreams and we need you guys to follow through. You know, you need to like, share, subscribe, share, like force your friends to listen to this.
Do you know what would be the greatest Ty and Matt space podcast? Is we do the entire show in space, but never like just talk about TikTok from space. Like never.
Don't even.
Like there's no reason that the show had to be in space. Yeah. We're just floating around.
We bring one of our college friends on. We're like, and our guest is what was your name? This is Rebecca from English 101. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I remember, Rebecca, you wrote about discourse communities. She's like, no, I didn't. Oh. This has been the Ty and Matt Space Podcast. Thanks for joining.
The Ty and Matt Spacecast.
Spacecast.
And we're like so heavily in debt from just having to pay Elon Musk to send us into space.
Yeah.
And we just blow it.
Yeah, and then when you're up there, I bet when you go to the International Space Station, it's not like you're on vacation. They start making you take readings and doing like experiments and stuff. And it's like, I just wanted to hang by the pool.
Yeah. I didn't. Do we have to do this right now? I was hoping to get a tan.
There's no, wait. There's no bar up here? Oh my God. Fucking A. And we can't go down for 3 more months. We're just stuck.
Yeah, we're just.
The one Russian cosmonaut won't leave us alone. He always wants to talk. It's like, shut up, Igor.
When does the sun go down?
Oh, in space, it never go down.
Shut up, Igor.
There's always a guy named Igor up on the space station at all times.
He hasn't left in like decades.
If he wants to, and if he wants to go down, he must be replaced by another Igor. That's part of the agreement between all nations that are, involved with the International Space Station. Russia insisted on it. All the other countries were like, really? Do we need this subsection 42-A, the Igor provision? Do we need this? Duh. And from then on, there's always been an Igor.
Oh my! We got to work on this. Can everyone send this episode to Elon? I know I always do these weird call to actions. No one ever does it. I'm so mad. We need real fans. You fucking people listen to this and you don't do my call to action. What's the point of a podcast if I can't get people to do shit I'm not going to do?
Yeah.
I feel like a podcast is the shortest distance between point A and point B because it's just me talking into a microphone, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just asking for people to do your bidding. I don't think it's too much to ask.
Share this to Elon Musk, please. DM him this episode.
Tweet it at him. He answers people. I just saw someone today was like, hey, any chance you're going to make jackets that look like the spacesuits? And he was like, probably. That was the extent of it. but he answered.
I love that's what people are concerned about. We
know.
fucking, it's the first time in like years we've just put Americans into space. They're like, hey, is there going to be a gift shop attached to this?
Although I got to say, I do like that he even took the time to answer that question. His company made this giant technological leap. They hadn't even docked to the space station yet, and he's answering merch questions. I think that's hilarious.
That's just, I mean, I feel like that's the most American thing. It's either where's the food court and where's the gift shop.
That's right. I love that whole thing about Disney World too, like the exit through the gift shop ideology. Every time it's like, hey,
see everything.
Yeah, that Tower of Terror is pretty badass, right? How about a T-shirt?
How about a snow globe?
That's right, exactly. Things I don't need or want, but hey, I was just on that ride. I have to get it. I was just on that.
Every time I shake the snow globe, I'm going to think of a better time.
That's right. I'll think of a time I was far, far happier.
You know what fucking makes me mad?
What's that?
I'm starting to get fired up now.
No.
It's that part of the episode where I'm getting too into it, but I hate that people can be such diehard, there's a cult with Disney.
Yeah.
I think we all know that. There's such fucking diehard fanatics about Disney, and they won't even share this fucking episode with Elon Musk. What the fuck?
No, I know.
We do this for free.
What if we said if someone can send the podcast to Elon Musk and he answers us and lets us go to space, a heavily discounted rate to space, we will buy you a one-day ticket to the Disney park of your choosing in North America.
North
and
America.
It's only one day, not a park hopper. If you do that, for us, you scratch our backs, we scratch yours.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Is this going to be them getting us on the ship? Wait, hold on. Are they just they just messaging Elon Musk?
They message Elon Musk. He answers and then allows us to go on the next Dragon capsule.
Okay. You made me nervous. I thought it was just I was like, I'm not dropping
no,
$140, for fucking, Joe fucking Schmo.
No, it's not that easy. Okay. It's not that easy.
Yeah, you got to get Elon Musk to agree.
And
it's after we get back from space. You get the tickets.
Actually, how about, do you think they let you take iPads up there?
I mean, what a weird thing to not
Yeah,
you go to space, everything else. They're like, actually, iPads literally will make the ship functional.
Time, Matt. It's T-minus. Oh, wait, hold on.
Time, Matt. It's T-minus 30 seconds to liftoff. Yeah. Can any chance anyone can bring me an iPad before we lift off? I forgot it's sitting next to the toilet. I forgot to bring it before we left. Over. T-minus 10 seconds. No, there is not time to bring the iPad, and that's gross. To leave it by the toilet anyway. Enjoy your trip up to the International Space Station.
That's probably how it would go down.
I love how it's a Richard Jewell impression for NASA.
They all kind of are. They all kind of got that going.
Can you please, in that voice, say that you found a bomb in Centennial Park?
I found a bomb in Centennial Park.
I didn't see that movie.
Oh my god, it sounds just like him.
Oh, does it?
Oh my god, yes. You gotta. I mean, it's fine. It's good. It's like a typical Hollywood where it's like, yeah, and then he stuck it to the man, and everyone was happy until he died of heart disease.
Oh.
And they literally end it that way. It's just
really?
kind of like, yeah. And then in 2014, he died of heart disease, and it's like, wow, okay.
Do you know what movie I tried to watch the other day, and I could not get through it?
What?
Uncut Gems.
I
did
not.
Watched.
You didn't like it? I haven't seen it.
I'll try and keep watching it. Adam Sandler. People were like, he got snubbed. I don't think people can't see this. I'm shaking my head wildly. I don't think he got snubbed. I can
verify he's shaking his head no.
Yeah, I don't think he's very good.
I saw not their first, but I saw the one with Robert Pattinson where he robs a bank with his mentally disabled brother, and it goes so fucking off the. I liked that, but I don't know. I was kind of nervous about Uncut Gems, thinking it might be.
maybe I expected too much, but like Sandler's character is like so over the top. Like sometimes I think with movies, people mistake over the top for like good acting.
Well, it's kind of like how like if you scream it, it's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, my mother's just a bag of tits. And it's like...
Hold on.
Okay.
Back at this.
There you go. Oh, and now look at...
Oh my god.
That's all you gotta
You need
do.
to put that in your stand-up comedy routine. Oh, you can be a catchphrase comic.
I didn't... I don't know. It just came to me.
You can't put tits in a bag.
Mom's a bag of tits. I
Okay.
This has got to be in the tape.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I got
That's gonna be my
I got to
tape.
stop. Just don't say it again. Just don't say it. Don't say it.
I know. It just sometimes they come to me. You know, sometimes like I sit down and it's like I got a joke.
It wasn't so much what you said, it was just the fact that you screamed it.
Yeah, it's like
man.
it's like my mom's just a bag. I can't scream it right now because my
careful.
roommates are sleeping. But like my mom,
You'll
is just
derail
a
the
bag.
podcast further.
Yeah.
Well, let's get it back on track. What do you say? I think we got something lined up. Do we not?
Yeah, we do. So obviously I fucking live in Atlanta, so I'm very aware of everything that's going on. Obviously, we are two aspiring clowns. That's essentially what we do. Matt writes for Bro Bible. He's a comedy writer. I do stand-up comedy and hardly get paid for it. So there's a reason why we chose not to really talk about any of the protests that have been going on. It's not our place. It's pretty unsolicited. I think people can kind of come to their own conclusions. But what I did want to do with this episode is dear friend of the podcast, Shelby Friedman, was actually part of a protest about 4 years ago called Standing Rock that I think some people should be familiar with. I mean, I would hope. It was pretty big. Back in my day, it was pretty big. So I want to bring her on, get the definition of like what's a good protest, what it was like for her, and just focus on something that the country also had to overcome at some point. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Shelby Friedman. And here I am with Shelby Friedman. Shelby, what's going on?
So ready.
For this interview?
For this interview,
I would hope
I've been
so.
waiting for it all day.
It's just you and me.
Honestly, the first 3 hours of the day when you promised we would have this interview.
Oh my God!
It's a little different.
Me and Matt had to cook up some podcast magic, and I do hate myself for saying cooking up podcast magic. Matt is not here. Matt's not in this interview. It's just you and me. No pressure.
I've noticed. I miss him.
Yeah, well, for legal reasons, he couldn't be here today.
Okay, that's fine.
It is very contractual, and to be honest, I still don't fully understand it. It's a lot of legal jargon. I'm putting the interns up to it. But you have me. We can do this. We got an interview, and this is going to be a great interview.
A very important one, yeah.
I think it's very important. This is in light of everything that's going on in Atlanta, worldwide, Minneapolis, a lot of protests, very heated issue. Don't really want to talk about that today. Not because it's not important, not because that it should not be talked about, but mostly because, as you'll hear later in this interview, the importance of talking about issues that you are directly a part of or hearing from like primary sources and trying to stop misinformation. So it's very difficult to do that with something that's unfolding live, something that's happening right now. So what I'd like to do is talking about an experience you had 4 years ago at Standing Rock because you were there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's what, 4 years ago now?
Yeah. 4 years ago in November.
Wow, that's crazy. Because I remember that's like you and me had just like met. We weren't even dating. Didn't even know you. I remember I like gave you some money. I remember you like
I
saying,
didn't even ask for money. I asked for
Yeah,
supplies.
I know. Well, I didn't have supplies, and I just was
You
like,
gave me like $3 whole, and I was like, I guess I'll
I
use this
gave
for
you,
gas.
I gave you everything that was in my wallet. Oh God, you weren't supposed to get into the specifics. Everything
I can
helps.
only recount my own experiences, Tyler.
Actually, okay.
It is an important point when it comes to protesting and when it comes to not allowing misinformation to spread, is using your own experiences to tell the truth. So the truth is, you only gave me $3 to go to Standing Rock. I was asking for donations for 2 weeks.
I feel like the truth. I feel like you know, it's not cherry picking the truth. I just feel like certain facts are more important than others. I don't know if the $3 is the most important fact. I think the generosity.
You were the only person. Let's twist the statistic this way. Tyler was the only person out of a school of 60,000 that donated anything towards Standing Rock.
You didn't ask everyone.
I did. I actually tried to get it on Nightly News. I tried to get it in Orlando Weekly. I was asking for donations for about 2 weeks. And at the time, it just wasn't enough of a hot button issue. I went kind of before the bigger implosion. So yeah, I didn't get any coverage outside of you kind-hearted soul.
Oh, now it sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Standing Rock is 4 years old.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people, I don't want to say like forgotten, but obviously there's a lot of facts that have kind of tampered away with time. I think people do need a bit of a recap on what was Standing Rock and why was it?
Well, Standing Rock was a protest against the North Dakota Access Pipeline that at the time was in the process of being built, now is built, to prevent the spill of oil into the Missouri River, already has happened. And the real issue was that the pipeline was being built above the Sioux Reservation in North Dakota, and they didn't really have the consent of the Native people living there, because there was actually an option for the pipeline to be built in Bismarck, the capital of North Dakota, and the city kind of declined, and instead they decided to build the pipeline right above the Cannonball River that turns into the Missouri River. It kind of opens up into it, but that is like one of the only sources of water that the Sioux Reservation has access to. And so to build a pipeline right above it with the water flowing downstream meant that if there was ever to have a spill occur, like I said, already did, it would harm the quality of the water of the people on the reservation. And it became, less of a legality issue because, of course, the pipeline was legally allowed to be built, but it was more of a humanitarian issue. And I mean, Native Americans, I'm sure I don't have to remind anyone, have definitely been through a lot as part of the American people. So it just spoke to me, so I went.
And you went there for a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you first get there? Like, when did you head up?
I went early November, and I left shortly after Thanksgiving. I had a friend who needed to get back to South Florida to go to court for a
case, a misdemeanor.
Medical marijuana charge.
Look, there's a lot of things being thrown at you. You don't need, like, obviously your answers don't have to be like lightning fast. This is the thing with like topics like this, especially when they're very heated issues that have multiple sides to them. I think there's always this like pressure that like, oh, if you don't have an answer or the right words to say, even though you were talking about a misdemeanor and not particularly Standing Rock at that moment. But I don't want you to feel like there's like any pressure on you to have things, have the right answer or the right thing to say right away. It's no biggie.
I get it.
Oh, I can see you're like beating yourself up.
I'm sorry. Okay, I just want to preface the interview by saying that I'm only going to speak from personal experience because I think it's very important to have the first person recount of what happened. And that is the easiest way for me to, allow other people to figure out what's true or what's not on their own accord as well. So if it sounds a little clunky, it's because it's coming through my eyes, and I am no expert on the fact. I just experienced it myself. So
Well, that's what you were told while you were there, correct?
yeah. So when you're making space for a group that you aren't necessarily a part of, I think it's really important, and it was prefaced to me as really important that to only speak from personal experience. And if you have the chance to allow people who are directly affected by the issue that's going on to have them speak, then to always make space for them to speak as well, because that's just what it is to be a good ally. So the elders told me, and I mean, obviously not just me, but the people that were protesting, that if we were going to leave the reservation and speak about Standing Rock, to only speak from personal experience so that we did not spread misinformation. And so that's what I'm here to do.
I hope we do it. I
Okay.
want to do it. So Standing Rock, obviously, I mean, I know, I'm sure so many people listening to this, a lot of the significance of it is gone. But at one point,
I disagree.
I'm glad you disagree. I very happy you disagree. I don't think it should be dissipated. I think it's one of those things where it's like issues move so quickly, especially in the United States and like news cycles, that to people it's like, oh, that's in the rearview mirror. That's over. But this is not the case. I mean, even 4 years later, there are still repercussions being faced, and it's still being brought up. And there's still even people that don't fully have the facts of it. I mean, or even just know what side they're really on.
And especially when it comes to, what's happening in today's socio-political climate, it's really helpful to look back on things that had been done in the past and the way that they shook up, because those types of experiences can pave way to the future, and you can learn from your mistakes and or like replicate something that worked. So, I mean, I think it's wonderful that you want to talk about Standing Rock 4 years afterwards. I think I thought I was the only one who still talked about it, to be honest.
Well, today, I think a lot of people are going to talk about. I hope. I mean, I would hope this builds a dialogue. But all right, let's get into the weeds of this. Let's get into the nuts and bolts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start a little bit more specific. What was your experience at Standing Rock like?
Oh, well, my experience was beautiful. I mean, Standing Rock was one of those rare opportunities where you could see people coming together for a cause that they all believed in, and you could see the greater good being crafted right in front of you. You got onto the reservation and everyone was very welcoming. It didn't matter if you were staying for a weekend or if you were staying long term to help with the protest. It didn't matter if you wanted to be on the front lines or behind the scenes. Everyone was welcome, and everyone was invited to take part in the protest, no matter what contribution you could make. Their arms were open. And I think something really beautiful about Standing Rock that I don't know if I'll ever recapture in today's society is really just the ability to see what is right and wrong just right in front of you. I think the most beautiful thing about Standing Rock was, we were defending the water. We were defending something that is sacred, and we were defending something for a people who have already had so much taken from them, that it was just so clear that being there felt right. And, there are so many different things that you can do throughout your day and so many different ways to choose to live your life. And at Standing Rock, the stars were aligned. Everything was in sync. The protest was for a cause just so much bigger than yourself. And I've honestly been trying to recapture that feeling of oneness for a really long time. I mean, there's very few times in your life where things can be so binary as to say, like, this is what's right and this is what's wrong, and I am the hero and that is the enemy. And especially in more complex issues, I just don't think those circumstances are ever really brought together in such a perfect way. So Standing Rock was one of those places where, we were building schools, and then we would go and we would protest peacefully in the streets. And, a successful day was when no one got arrested and no mace was ever shot into the crowd, and nothing terrible happened. And we came back to Big Camp, and, we heard the songs, and we slept in yurts, and we went to bed when the sun went down, and we woke up when the sun rose, and we did it all over again. And we were fighting for something that was bigger than ourselves. And it was one of the best things I've ever experienced in my life. And, it's harsh to say that something so tragic as, someone's rights being taken away, or like a humanitarian issue where like an entire nation has to come together, is the only time that you can find like what I would say was like a true form of a communistic society where, you weren't obligated to do anything, but everything just felt so right. Like those circumstances, those conditions to be put together, like it's awful that it was to protest something as awful as oil being spilt into a water supply, and there's something beautiful to be said in all tragedy. So it was a beautiful time to be there, beautiful time to be alive.
I wouldn't even say, like, it's really not like communistic or anything like that. I think like
no, not communism, commune.
For a second there I was like, I don't know, is it?
No, like a commune. Like
I'm
people were
stupid.
cooking in the kitchen, and people were going to the protesting the pipeline, and people were building buildings, and people were organizing donations, and
okay. I'm like,
commune.
I was like, yeah, I don't think the oneness is necessarily that, but maybe. I don't know anything.
All I meant was if you weren't an action person, if you didn't want to go stand on the front lines like I did, then there was always something you could be doing to help. Really the beautiful part.
That could be communism.
I don't want to touch on that issue. I meant a commune.
Commune, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
What I was going to get at was, do you think your experiences like this happens a lot with members of our military? They almost, they don't know how to. They always talk about like there's a goal, like there's just a thing that's directly in front of you when you're in the military, and you have this bond with the people you're around, and it's so hard to go back to what people would define as normal society, normal American society. That's why
it's so hard.
That's why a lot of them re-enlist. They get. It's not so much like obsessed, but it's like hard to even like comprehend. Like, oh, this is how people live day to day.
When you can see your enemy on the other side of a line, and you know what's right or wrong in your heart in that moment, going back to the frivolity.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to the frivolity.
I just got commune and communism fucked up.
Okay,
So
well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't.
Going back to the frivolous things people do with their daily lives, like going to the grocery store or like turning in an assignment, like it feels so empty. I mean, everything felt empty for months after I got back from Standing Rock. Nothing had as much potency and as much meaning as standing for something you truly believe in and knowing that you're in the right. I mean, it's a hard feeling to replicate.
I mean, I'm sure people that argue about iPhones and Androids probably get some.
I hope not.
Yeah, no, not even remotely close. Like I know that is so weird to think about, that you spent a month there and you're seeing such real shit.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Eloquently spoken, Ty.
I know. I feel like I could have.
I'll talk about it later. Continue.
No. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, I can shed some light on that real shit that went down. Because I mean, when you want me to talk about an overview of what Standing Rock was like, I mean, it was perfect. It was society at its best. It was people coming together and loving and being peaceful. I mean, no drugs, no weapons, nothing was allowed on the reservation. Everyone had a place. There was food in abundance. There was clothes in abundance. But I mean, that's not why we were there. That's just the way I want it to be remembered. I mean, if you want to talk about all of the awful things that happened at Standing Rock, people were maced and there were rubber bullets and the water cannons didn't come out until after the ground froze over, and there were drones coming into the campsite at night to spy on us with infrared technology, and there were cops that were trying to infiltrate our protests and get our caravans to be separated just so they can like cut us off and arrest whoever was in line to come with us for a peaceful protest. I mean, there was a lot of awful things that the oppressors did to us. And that's kind of like the shit that you're saying went down, right? Like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I don't want to broad brush anything. 'Cause we're very early on in this interview, and I guess Yeah, I mean, correct me if I ever broad brush anything, if any term seems a little too general, because I understand the importance of highlighting both the good and the bad.
Oh, it's necessary.
No. I'm glad you did, because you're right. I mean, there's a lot of beauty in having allies around you and having people unify and just have this, even if it's for the briefest of moments, have this kind of refuge of human spirit versus something that was heavy. I mean, that's why this interview is probably not going to be even a little bit funny, because it's such a serious topic. But it's a topic that we're afforded to put under a microscope now that we've had time and distance.
Some time has passed, yeah.
Yeah, because 4 years ago, I mean, I remember, I mean, it was...
People would tell me that I was trying to act like Standing Rock was some sort of like military service. And that boy. I was, and that I was talking about it like we were actually going to war. And, you know, at the time it was so silly to see anyone try to oppose the good that was going down there. But of course, onlookers will have something to say about everything.
Well, that's why I really want to do this today, or rather tonight at this moment. But
because there's some space between what happened then and what happened now. It's cemented into the ground a little bit more. It's a little easier to talk about in hindsight.
Yes, and also the fact that, like, you were there. Like, I don't know. There's a thing that's happening right now that I even noticed with the protests, but even every protest that I've been, I guess, adult enough to digest, is that misinformation. It's just like, and people are just so fucking casual about it. It's just like, you know, they just shoot off a tweet and they just negate people that are like actually a part of it. And they don't hear anything out. And then they just look at, you know, the fringes of things, because like,
you can fight about the fringes all day.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, and there were headlines that painted the protests.
Of course. I mean, there were people saying that, you know, rainbow children infiltrated the camps and like weekend warriors were undermining everything we were doing. And, you know, what's funny is, I mean, those are things that happened. You know, there was hippies and they would come and they would only stay for a couple of days and they wouldn't actually protest. They would just set up camp and it would be like, it'd be like a vacation for them, where like a lot of...
Oh my God, that's so fucked.
I know, but the thing is, the way that they were greeted was no different than anyone else who was actually trying to make a difference, because we weren't interested in the fringes. We had the goal in sight. We knew what the root of the problem was, and it didn't matter who was there to just pick off a new pair of winter boots for the weekend or like find a cool place to camp before they go over to Wyoming. Like, that didn't matter. That we weren't going to let those little things get in the way of what was truly important, why we all gathered there. And I think that's true to be said for any protest. You can go and pick off people who are doing wrong. There were insurgents in the middle of Standing Rock all the time trying to cause things, and there were people that tried to undermine what we were doing. And if you unify truly and you know what you stand for, those things just fall on deaf ears. Those things just are not important. All of those people who fought for those reasons are not why we were there and what we were fighting for, and that wasn't our problem at all.
I know. It has to be so frustrating to actually have been a part of something and just have someone go like, well, yeah. I mean, I understand the whole water supply thing, but, and then you got to listen to this but where it's like, yeah, they fucking, I don't know, threw a rock through a windshield or something, and it's like,
that's something that happened.
I'm sure.
Yeah, someone threw a rock at one of the what are they called? The giant shields that they have when they do the
rioting gear.
The riot gear, yeah. Someone threw a rock at the riot gear, and immediately the protests were like, "That's not why we're here. Put the rocks down." Like, we were not there for any sort of violence whatsoever. So, like, of course, these people spat up that weren't necessarily aligned with the cause, but I mean, when you have that pure of intentions, you just go full steam ahead.
Well, did you notice the fringes? Like, did you notice
Yes.
other groups trying to infiltrate for their benefit, or was it just for...
You can always tell when someone comes up to you and they start leading questions. You know, you can always tell when some older person comes in, they're like, "Hey, everybody, so these protests, when are we going to pull out the guns?" Like,
what, was it ever that like ham-fisted?
No, there was never a time where someone just straight up came.
Well,
and
no.
told me those types of
Yeah,
things. That's a little aggressive.
I would hope they dressed it up more.
No, but yeah, I mean, there were plenty of people who were, I mean, without sounding too militarized, there were double agents in the reservation that were getting intel for people in places that we didn't want intel to be leaked into. I mean, we tried to organize pop-up protests in a way where the police could not cut off our route, because a lot of the time that's what they were trying to do. They're trying to cut off the caravan and arrest as many protesters as possible. So we tried to keep our locations for the protests on the daily like very, very secretive. So of course, for you to be able to kind of get in the know on where the next protest was going to be, I mean, in light of how many people were coming for a couple of days, how many people might have been working for someone else, like you had to kind of build a relationship before you had access to that kind of information. So yes, there was plenty of insurgents trying to weasel their way into the inner workings of what happened. But
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels so unrealistic, doesn't it? It feels so silly to say that someone, snuck their way onto a peaceful and open reservation, trying to like milk information out of people, and trying to spread misinformation and trying to cause civil unrest amongst people who were so peaceful. But that's exactly what happened. I mean, there were people, like I said, someone threw a rock, they got kicked out of the reservation. Like, we weren't there for violence. We weren't there for weaponry or drugs or I mean, we were peacefully congregating on a daily basis. And where we decided to congregate, that was top secret. Usually Bismarck. Yeah.
Well, not top secret anymore, but top secret back then.
Yes.
Oh boy. That's just nuts. How do you handle that emotionally, like mentally, just knowing that there's people that are like prying information from you?
Well, it's the same way you feel when there's a drone watching you while you sleep. I mean...
Can you hear the drones?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. They had a little red laser. You come and you could see it in the fires that we had. Because, I mean, there was always campfires around, right? Like, it was a very... And you could just see, like, from the smoke, you'd like, what is that? And you'd look over, there's a drone. Like, there's a drone watching you with infrared lasers trying to kind of figure out how many people were congregating on the reservation. Like, you could hear them while you sleep. And... yeah, they constantly tried to pull information off the reservation. But, what's funny is if they just actually came to support the cause, eventually they would have figured it all out anyways.
Oh, boy. What was the treatment of protesters generally?
We were very hated by the population of Bismarck. I mean, as far as they could tell, we were just disrupting their roads and we were just, shutting down buildings. When the protests happened, there were a lot of local entities that would shut down as a result, just in case things got kind of, things escalated, right? So there were major roads were shut down. There were, public buildings that shut down. I know that when I was arrested, the person I was sharing a cell with was pacing back and forth very frantically. She was very upset. She was like, because of those fucking protesters, my boyfriend can't come to visit me today. And I was just like, I'm not going to tell you what I'm here for.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I mean, the general treatment was that there was something wrong with what we were doing. Meanwhile, we are just holding space. I mean, we would go to like the post office, or we would go to, the local government building, and we would be with a megaphone holding hands. No one's doing anything particularly disruptive, but of course the police would shut down the roads, and it was because of the protests. So because of the protests, we're obviously the ones to blame. And normal riot gear, weaponry was out and about every single time we went into town. As far as the people of Bismarck were concerned, every time these people walked into the city, a tank would follow. Multiple police officers would follow. There were sirens everywhere and things got shut down. Of course, they thought we were the enemy, but we were just trying to talk.
Oh, man. That's so... God, they're a little like microcosm. They're just like, God, they got to fucking protest today?
Of course. And it's so funny because when you look at the cycle of things happening, who's reacting to what and what is the cause, you can point to any person in any place in the circle and try to point blame, right? It was like, well, if you weren't here, then the cops wouldn't be here. And it's like, well, if we didn't have to protest, then there wouldn't be a tank here and a sound cannon. So, I mean, in one way, you're right. Like, we are the reason that the military is here, but also like their presence is completely unnecessary in this peaceful protest. So you can look at them and ask in the exact same way that you're looking at us and asking why we're here, why the heck they're here. And, where people choose to stop in that cycle and figure out where they decide to point blame just shows more of who they are than who we are. I mean, we were peaceful. Facts are facts. Did nothing wrong.
Wow. Oh, boy. So did anyone like you guys other than the actual tribe? I mean, it sounds like, so Bismarck didn't like you.
No.
Police didn't like you.
The local police, at least, they didn't necessarily dislike us. I mean, as binary of a situation as it is, as easy as it is to say, we're the good guys, those are the bad guys. Sometimes the bad guys are just puppets for the bigger bad guys. Because I would talk to local officers and they would want me to hold space. They would say, like, I understand what you're doing. We're not going to do anything. I mean, there were multiple times where the protesters would just ask the police officers to take their masks down, right? Because they have these giant masks that conceal their identity, conceal their eyes. And we would sit there in a peaceful protest and be like, we're not going to hurt you. Take your mask off. And a lot of them would. And a lot of them would look us in the eyes and look at us as people and hear what we had to say and let us hold space. And a lot of times we had a beautifully peaceful protest where no one got arrested, and we would go back to big camp and we would be happy and we would be proud.
Oh, man, God, that's crazy. So some of these cops were merely working for the double holiday pay. Yeah, I mean,
and
that's,
the overtime that
it,
they got for standing in front of us with riot gear.
I know, isn't that what's crazy? I mean, a lot of people don't even know, like, just the economics of, like,
how's a cop going to turn that down? Especially, I mean, I can't even blame them. You can't even blame a police officer if they're like, oh, I really want to get my daughter this gift for Christmas. And like, this is really what's going to this is what's going to do it. It was November in North Dakota. I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to turn down the money. Okay, that's not true. I would turn down the money. But that's because I can see the issue point blank, and I have the liberty, I have the ability to turn down that kind of money. For someone who might be in a different economic situation, maybe they had to take the job, maybe they had to point the rubber bullets at us.
Oh yeah, well, that's very hard. I mean, that's what makes the issue so divisive, because it's so hard, because it's like, I really wish, it could be Star Wars and we knew, Darth Vader.
Good guys versus bad guys.
Yeah,
easy as that.
We got to take out the Death Star. But
it's so much more complex. Even in a perfect protesting situation where there was no violence and our message was clear and we had a clear call to action from beginning to end, everyone knew exactly what we wanted.
The call to action was to stop the pipeline.
Yes, stop it being built. Easy peasy. There wasn't enough environmental reports. There wasn't enough, talking about what was actually going to be done. They didn't have a chance to negate it, debate it, talk about it at all, and they wanted that space, so we talked about it. We would go and protest and talk about it, and we'd say, like, this is so not right. I mean, water is life, and they've got one source of water, and you're trying to build over it. You're trying to build something that causes seizures if it gets into your water supply.
Yeah, and it's different.
Growing tumors and getting cancer, and you're just building that.
Yeah, like I mean, it's not even just building something over it, because it's like that almost, like if they're building a bridge, it would have been like, all right, but they're building a pipeline. And, contrary to popular belief, oil... not very great.
Crude.
No.
Very crude.
Oh my God.
Awful for water.
Yeah.
There was actually a very popular whistleblower that was at our protests that was advocating for it, that had something very similar happen, where he was working on a pipeline over in Michigan, and he became a whistleblower because he just saw what it was doing to the people of the county. Like they would say, hey, it's safe to drink the water. And then there were signs. Oh, this documentary is so good. But there were signs where like, oh, if the fish has like black in its gills, don't worry. That's just residue. It's safe to drink. And it's like, it's not, because it's causing epilepsy. It's causing tumors. It's causing cancer. People's kids are having their senses messed with, and people are going blind. And just because a pipeline spill happened and a company didn't want to pay for the proper cleanup, and they would just throw sod over it, and you would stick your hand 2 feet into the dirt and come out with crude oil. and you are like, this is not safe. And for that to already happen, for it to already be known that that's what happens when oil spills into a water supply, to do it to Native American people who've already been through so much on a reservation where there's not even street lights.
Well, you know, it's crazy. I mean, like, fuck, Flint. I mean, Flint, Michigan. I don't even know. Is it still like you can light their water on fire?
I don't know if Elon Musk solved that problem. Or
I remember Elon Musk was actually involved in that. But like, just look at Flint, Michigan, and how difficult it is just to get that problem fixed for people that are a part of the United States.
But technically sovereign.
Well, no, Flint, Michigan.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Thank you for fact checking me just in case, though.
No, Michigan's a part of the United States.
Well, I don't know.
It could break off into Canada at any point.
I mean, if one more asked me like, "Oh, here, if this is Michigan on their hand, they're like pointing things out on their," they're weird people. But I guess technically they are part of the United States. But they're like, there's actual videos and all that. They're very well represented. I mean, they technically have people in the Senate, and I mean, imagine just being a sovereign nation. I mean, like, they never would have been heard.
Not without national news coverage. That's why people congregated. That's why I went
all that
there.
Attention.
Yeah, exactly. And still, I mean, if there's something to be said about protesting, we did it all right, and we still didn't win. I mean, the pipeline was built, and there was a spill. I mean, not even 4 years later could they promise that there wouldn't be a spill. There was one. Right into the Cannonball River, right where we were protesting. It happened.
So I mean, Standing Rock, I guess technically as a protest, did it not work?
It was completely peaceful. It got national attention. It gave space to people that hadn't been heard in a really long time. In all of those regards, Standing Rock was a complete success. But as far as, this hurts to think about. There was a day where we had all gotten news that the pipeline would be halted. You know, it came right from the top. It came right from the POTUS at the time. It was very important. It was a huge day on Big Camp. Oh my God. Everyone was rejoicing. It was like we had won the Civil War. Like everything came to a halt. People were packing up and going home. We won. And we didn't. It was told to us, and I'm only speaking from personal experience. It was told to us, and then not even 2 weeks later, the pipeline construction resumed. And a lot of people did go home. I mean,
so was it like a strategy?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we had veterans that were going to come to the reservation. They were on their way. It was right after Thanksgiving. There was still snow everywhere, but they were on their way. And, we had some people that were like anti our protesters whenever we would hold space in Bismarck. And what they always said, their go-to was like, you are undermining our troops. They're here for freedom, and you guys are somehow disrespecting them. And so we had news that we were going to have thousands of veterans come to show solidarity and come in support of the pipeline. And right as that final unifying force was coming to the reservation to really just show everybody, whether you're right wing, left wing, all for big military, big government, or all for not, we all stood together on this. This was like a nationally unifying issue, and these people showing up was going to change everything and show the whole world like we all stand in solidarity with this issue. And right as news spread that all these veterans were going to come to the reservation, news spread that it was over and the pipeline was shut down. And then those people never showed up because as far as they were concerned, we won. And then we didn't. And it resumed. And I'm not trying to make it political. This is just from my experience. it seems very well timed, because almost immediately afterwards, the government tried to claim that we no longer had a building permit right on the reservation. I don't understand the legalities. Don't even get me started on native sovereignty and their ability to build on their own land.
Yeah.
But we had to tear down the schools that we had built. We had to tear down the yurts that we had built. We had to tear down all of the things that had been built for Standing Rock almost immediately afterwards, because a permit expired, and that's kind of where everything spiraled and fell apart. I mean, that's where the solidarity kind of crumbled, is a little right after Thanksgiving. 2 weeks after I left, there was nothing to go back to, because I was planning on coming back after I dropped my friend off. In that he made it like 2 hours before his court date, which was great.
Oh my God, you guys.
And I was planning on just turning around and going right back to North Dakota. But there was nothing to come back to that easily. It just was completely dissolved. Whether or not you think that's, a political move, whether or not you can place blame on somebody for that you'll have to do your own research on. But it was heartbreaking. So in all regards to your initial question, whether or not we were successful in a lot of different things, including, a way to protest that could gain national attention. But whether or not it actually made a difference, there's spilled oil in the Cannonball River right now. And they being the Standing Rock case is currently going on 4 years later. And recently, as of like May 20th of 2020, they were finally granted a huge win for the Standing Rock legal team. They were granted a right to show that environmental report on how the oil was going to impact their water source, because before that, I guess they just weren't even. Oh. It wasn't even something people asked about. Hey, how's this going to affect the Sioux reservation? We don't know. We don't really care. I guess because now 4 years later, they're finally going to go to court over it, and they have their environmental report waiting, and the hearing is not yet to be set. May 20th, 2020. So whether or not the peaceful protest was successful will, I guess, depend on the Supreme Court when it comes down to that.
It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
With that being said, whether or not a different action could have been taken is complete theoreticals. Whether or not protesting in different forms works better than others, completely theoretical. All I know is pipeline was still built. People's trust was betrayed. And a lot of people were taught something really important. But I think the most important thing was that you can be heard and you can make space for other people to be heard. And I think that actually Standing Rock was a giant, was kind of like the rock in the ripple, the rippling effects of Standing Rock allowed more protests to take place than I think were ever like truly brought to the attention of the news to that scale. And since Standing Rock, protesting has been a beautiful right that people have been exercising.
Well, okay, what would you define a good protest as?
I'm a firm believer that a protest needs to have a call to action, or else it's just over-glorified complaining. Now, nothing to be said about glorifying and complaining. You are allowed, as an American citizen, to complain about the terrible things that happen to you as much as you want. But unless you have a solution, unless you have something that you want to be changed, unless you can point to the exact bill or the exact clause or the exact thing that you are trying to get rid of, there's not as much that people can do for you. Like if you protest and they say, okay, you win, what do you want? What are you going to say? And if you don't have anything to say, then why were you protesting? And it's hard because some of these things are so unquantifiable. They're so hard to grasp, like as a humanitarian issue, our number one chant was water is life. But the hard part about that is if the pipeline wasn't built there, it had to be built elsewhere.
Yeah.
And if the pipeline wasn't coming through American soil, it would come through some other country's soil, and maybe a country that didn't have as strict labor laws, and maybe children would be at risk. And, we have an entire war that's happening over oil all the time for however long that people, and it's just, we had this overarching goal, right? Water is life. This was the most important mantra of the protest. But I think we had to really get to the root of what we were trying to accomplish, which was these people's water supply is endangered. These people have space to talk about this and how it's going to affect them. And these people don't want this to be built over their plot of land. And you have to get that specific. You have to get that specific with your protest, because if not, it's just this thing that maybe should happen by society as a whole. Like, theoretically, we should just get away from oil as a resource, as a fuel type, right? That would be us truly honoring what it means to say water is life. We wouldn't have all these pipelines currently being built throughout America. Like, that's what it truly stands for. Water is life, Mini Wakoni. That's what it means. But in that moment, in that protest, we were talking about the Sioux Reservation, the Native Americans living on this reservation, and how they would specifically be affected by this pipeline being built. Because otherwise, what are we debating for? Renewable resources and renewable energy sources that could be 20, 30 years in the future. Like, of course, that's what we wanted. That's what everyone wants, any positive, environmentalist. But we had to be specific. If you're not specific, what are you going to get done? And I think the most important thing for a protest is to be specific, to know exactly what you want to change. Or else they say, yes, you win. And then what? Okay, we win. Let's go home now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I'm glad. No, seriously, I'm glad we could kind of unpack something that I know means a lot to you. I know it means a lot to plenty of people. I think there's still a lot of people that probably are sitting there going, like, standing what? And, like, that's the sad part. And I hope that maybe some people can walk away from this knowing more about protesting as a language, understand what makes a good protest, and just understand kind of conflicted issues that can be really hard to explain as simple binary things.
I don't think many people can replicate what happened at Standing Rock. But to say that they could is to provide a huge injustice to a more complex issue of American society. So don't hold the purity test to Standing Rock.
I'm glad you made it back.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
It's great to have you. We're going to have some links on here. This has been really beautiful. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you, Ty.
Thank you for coming on. It really means a lot. All right, guys. This has been Shelby Page.
Friedman.
Really? Really? Just immediately. We had so much energy going into the outro. And
I'm pretty sure you called me Shelby Friedman in the beginning.
oh, I did call you Shelby Friedman.
Whatever my name is.
Whatever your name is. You're Shelby. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And that was Shelby Friedman. I'm glad I could get her back on.
Yeah, thanks, Shelby.
Oh, hold on. Someone's phone is ringing. Sorry. Wow. Unprofessional, right? Great interview and just immediately fucking blow it.
You don't
with the
have
phone
those
ringing in the background.
You don't have those Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle bags where you put the phone.
Oh,
That's
what I need to do.
The special Ziploc bags that I guess radio frequencies can't get into or escape from.
I wish we had that kind of power where it's like, because I feel like even if we did like a live podcast of Time At, we just don't have that celebrity to be like, yeah, you have to give up your phones to see me.
No.
You have to be Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock.
I was going to say there aren't many that have that. Like
Louis C.K. can get away with it.
Yeah,
Dave Chappelle, and Chris
not
Rock. I think
anymore.
that's the three. You don't think so? Oh, well,
I think
yeah.
Louis C.K.'s off the list.
You think he's off? Probably.
Yeah, I think Chappelle for sure. And you know what's funny? Chappelle, because the reason you would take the phones is so material you're working on doesn't go out, right? You know, before you're ready for it to go out.
Yeah.
Chappelle is the guy that, like, maybe it's probably just because he's so good. It seems like he could just do a new set every night.
Well, I mean, that's pretty. I mean, the thing with Dave Chappelle that he does is he'll actually do a show, like he'll do his normal show, his normal hour, and then as people are leaving, he'll stop them and ask them to come back in, and he's like, no, I have some stuff I want to work on, and he'll apparently just go for like pretty much hours.
Wow. There is a great, if people listening, if you like Chappelle, which if you like this show, you probably do. Not to say we're like Chappelle, but I feel like that's the general crossover, right?
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah, you like funny. There's a great video of Dave Chappelle. There's a couple of them at the Laugh Factory. They're older. I think it's like right when he started to come back, like early on in that trajectory. And dude, it's 100% just him riffing. He's like got a beer in his hand the whole time, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's literally the best at just talking, and he's that perfect example in comedy where, and this is so inside baseball that I'm going here, but there's that rule where if like you can't be funny, at least be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I rarely have seen a Dave Chappelle clip where even if I'm not laughing, I'm still kind of leaning. You want to hear it. You want to hear what the fuck he's saying and why he's saying it.
Yeah. Well, he's established the track record that if he's saying something, it will be one of those two things. Like another one I feel like is kind of in that space now is Bill Burr. Like anytime he says something, you want to hear it because you know it's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
he purposely digs holes for himself. He loves doing that.
Oh yeah.
He starts with the crowd hating him, and then he likes to work his way back up.
That charity thing that Comedy Central did
is hilarity for charity.
I forget. It might have been that where he makes a joke about Michelle Obama saying she needs to be quiet because it's like we want to hear from your husband. He's the guy. And then people are like, oh, come on, you can't be saying that. And he's like, listen, would you call a plumber and have him working, and then his wife would be there too, and she'd be like, I think you should do that. He's like, it would drive you insane. It was just so funny because it was a big audience, it's a charity thing. So that kind of joke about Michelle Obama, that kind of statement was going to make the crowd turn, and it did.
Oh, 100%.
But he brought him back. It was crazy, like just how good he is at doing that.
I mean, I think that's such an interesting thing because I think in like the darkest things in like the human spirit, it's still so easy to find the humor in it. And it's so incredible. People have gotten to a point where like they just know how to play it like an instrument, where it's like, no, we'll go to a very uncomfortable place and we're all you might hate me for a second, but then ultimately we're all going to laugh about it.
Yeah.
We don't have to see eye to eye. We can disagree this whole time, and we're still going to have a great time. I think that's why so many people become like nerds of comedy. It's just because of just that thing where it's like, to me, it's like a weird bit of like magic. It's almost like, watch me make you hate me, and then also I'm going to make you love me as well.
I was going to say, it's funny you would say magic. That was exactly what I was thinking, where you watch it and you're like, you're trying to figure out how they're doing this. Like, how did they do? You're trying to guess, like dissecting the way they, what words they use. Was it the words themselves? Was it how they said it? Was it body language? Like, what was
the only difference between like comedy and magic is I don't think any like frat guy or dad watches magic and goes, oh, I could do that.
Yeah, no.
But I swear to God, every single, almost without fail, every single white dude I think I've talked to in his mid-30s has confided in me that he's like, I really think I could do stand-up. And I love that you're doing it. I respect it. I know it takes so much bravery. I hate when they say bravery. Like, oh man, I know. Fucking
yeah.
Give it up for the comics.
Yeah, exactly. Keeping this country afloat.
Yeah, keeping everyone safe with my jokes.
I I don't like now. I don't get defensive. Like I did stand up a few times, but what always goes through me is when people are like, "Oh yeah, people always told me the people at work told me I should do stand up." I'm always cracking them up.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like
the funniest
not the
guy in
same-
the office.
Not the same thing.
No,
at
not
all.
even a little bit.
No,
They never get it until it's the. I think I've talked about it on the show. It's so it always they always pick like weird. At least in Atlanta, they always pick like the hardest mics to start with, where it's like the room sucks first off, and just be prepared. Like the likelihood of you succeeding here is already low, even if you're kind of good at this.
yeah,
And you're not going to be kind of good. You're going to be bad. And they always do that same thing where it's like the first joke, a lot of confidence. And then as soon as it doesn't get a laugh, it kind of like sounds like they got hit in the stomach a little bit, like they're breathing. It's like,
yes. I've been there, dude. I think we've talked about it. The first time, not you were saying, sometimes the room sucks. That's one of many variables that will be out of the first time comics' control.
yeah.
There are so many other things. You can't control how the show is going. You can't control who the host is. You can't control how late the show is. Because I know the first time I did stand up, the room was packed. There were people you were there, I think. There were people sitting on the stage at Austin's Coffee behind the comics.
Coffee, Winter Park,
Austin,
Florida.
that's right. The host was doing well, at just keeping everything high. The comics were doing all right. I went up and I had a really good set.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing for my first time. In fact, it scared me because I came back and then just ate a plate of shit the next week.
Totally. Yeah,
Because
that happens so much.
100%. Here were the mistakes I made. Tried to do all new material. Big mistake. I went on at midnight. The show started at 9. I couldn't control that. The room was about empty, and the people that were there had now watched 3 hours of amateur comedy. Right? As someone doing their second mic, I had none of the skills. Now, take out of the equation the fact that the material was probably not great. I remember there were many Chia Pet jokes. Take that out of the equation. And I still did not have the tools needed to make that work. And that is where the guys that are like, "Oh yeah, I'm hilarious in the office." That's the part they don't understand. Like,
actually, I think we have a clip of that. Can we play? You mind if I play a clip of your stand-up?
oh, I'd be insulted if you didn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounded like.
No, I like what you did there, though. Yeah. No, stand-up is a fucking bitch. I love. I always say I love the trajectory of the show right now. Hey, if you want to learn about protest and comedy or get into space, it's Ty and Matt.
Yeah. Comedy tips from a guy who does it and a guy who did it a couple times. And yeah, space. That's what they want from this show. They want that roller coaster. It's like space goofiness, serious talk of protesting, and then goofiness. But you still learn during the goofiness. Like that's what we do.
You still learn a little bit.
That's
let me make it clear for anyone that's listening to this, and I know I make stand-up sound so hard, and like, maybe you shouldn't do it, maybe you should. I want to make it 100% clear. Please don't fucking do it. Just please don't even stop thinking about it. Get a real hobby. If I can put it nicely, get a life. Like if what you're thinking about is stand-up comedy, that's not a life. It's not even really an existence. It's a fucking punishment. And please don't do it. And don't tell me about it. I hate that. Don't like if you're gonna do it, just do it. But don't like also do that thing where like you're thinking about doing it and you just have to talk to strangers about it.
Yeah.
Please
I've always
stop
thought
doing that.
about it. Yeah. One of these days I'm going up there.
I'm going out. It's just got to be the right time.
When people hear you do comedy, do they ever like say, I got a joke for you, or
Yeah.
like something happens and they're like, "Hey, I better not hear that," and your stand up skit.
Yeah. What do you?
That's
What are your stand-up skits?
yeah.
Oh, I loved your skit up there.
Oh,
It
dude,
almost
that
hurts.
word that used to drive me nuts. This is inside baseball, but when we were doing Tonight's Tonight, the legendary collegiate comedy show Tonight's Tonight, University of Central Florida.
Please don't look it up.
I would hate anytime someone would refer to anything we did as a skit. It would drive me insane. Like,
Well, it's like a mom calling your PlayStation Nintendo.
yes, it's exactly what it's like.
Stop.
I would always be like, listen,
Shut up, Mom. My friends are over.
yeah, dude, it's so tough. You sound like a dork if you try to correct them, but I was always like, a skit is what children do like in front of their class. Like
Yeah.
your teacher makes
I
you
know,
do
it's
it.
so subtly patronizing. Oh, you're
Yes.
doing one of your comedy skits.
One of your skits. Yeah, no. Sketch.
Oh my god, that's like your grandma. Oh, you do one of your skits on the phone.
Oh, his little skit was so clever. Oh my goodness, he's always making us laugh. You know, when he was little, he used to run around in his diaper and he would do little dances. He was so silly.
He was so talented. He was such a talented performer.
Oh, and he's so handsome too. No one pumps your tires like your your grandparents.
No. I just want someone's
Oh, and he's
grandma-
so smart. I'm surprised he's not working at NASA, graduating from Harvard and working on Wall Street all at the same time.
Yeah, wow. He could really split my atom. I don't know why Grandma got like kind of sexual
That
there
did
for a
sound
second.
hot.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you could split my atom.
Yeah.
I like that's such a weird.
I wonder if that's ever been
It
used.
take one. You have to be really smart and really sexy to split a woman's atom.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Think about
accurate.
that one. And accurate.
Yeah. I wonder.
Can we get your grandmother on the show or my grandmother?
Probably.
I just want like we don't even do an interview. It's just 30 minutes of her like, oh, you're both so handsome.
You're so fun.
You are
two is
so
fun.
handsome.
Does your grandma talk? Mine. Neither one I have talks like that.
No, I don't know why I'm doing that.
That's well. The
You
default
did it,
grandmother
and now
voice, yeah.
I know.
Oh, I do this voice all the time. It makes me crack up. I don't know why. I just do it alone in a room. It's
Like
kind
a
of
Long
sad.
Island grandmother.
It's Staten Island, Ty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But close enough.
I don't even.
That's what I call Long Island. I call it Wrong Island. It's me and Muriel. We crack ourselves up.
Oh my god! I didn't. Why are you so talented? I don't get it. I have no skills. You literally can do. We've in this one podcast you have done. Richard Jewell working at NASA.
I didn't even know, dude. I didn't even know.
That's how good you are.
Just
You did Richard
Sixth
Jewell working at
Sense.
NASA. Igor.
Duh.
Da. I'm pretty sure that's German, but who's gonna fact check? I mean, what
No one.
fucking Putin is gonna write
It's
it?
East
Fuck
German.
you,
That
Putin.
that counts, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's close enough. And then, oh, Grandma, yeah, Staten
Yeah.
Island Grandma.
Staten
I
Island.
love this. I love this
Thanks, man.
podcast. I think
I do
we've,
too.
I think we've accomplished a lot today.
We have. We ran the gamut.
I think we've talked about good things. We talked about going to space.
We did.
And we figured out protesting
Yeah.
and comedy.
I think everything we talked about was good. Some were tough to talk about, but they're important conversations, and I'm glad we're having them.
I think everyone should have them. I'm glad I had it with you, Matt.
I'm glad I had them with you too, Ty.
I want to have more conversations with you.
Oh, man. We're going to have so many more conversations.
Oh, I love talking to you.
Oh, man. See you later.